good Tuesday morning to you, and welcome to Matthew Bible Study number 80. A new first digit. Hey, this is Pastor Mark Pierce with Church Requel, and it's great to spend this Tuesday morning with you in a brief Bible study. We're considering Matthew, and we're in the Sermon on the Mount in chapter 5, and we're still working our way through the Beatitudes. Today we're going to move on to Matthew chapter 5, verse 9, which reads this way: "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God." Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. You know, very often as I have read this and thought about this in the past, I often thought it meant more like, blessed are those who love peace. I would think of someone who maybe would join the Peace Corps and go off and or someone who would say, I'm not in favor of war, or I just want people to get along. The interesting thing about this is that whenever the Hebrew mindset would say peace, or of course what we know as shalom, it wasn't always just in the negative sense, meaning may you not have trouble or may you not have conflict, but actually was more of the positive sense as well, meaning may you have all that you need, may you be blessed, may your relationships be prosperous. In other words, there was a positive side to the idea of shalom or peace. Now, as we take a look at this, I am surprised just in my own mind as I think about this that Jesus doesn't say, blessed are those who love peace. He's saying here, blessed are those who make peace. That's a very different thing. You know, there's many people, I think, who would say, I would like people just to get along, or I would like to be able to get along with people. But it's a very different thing, I think, to say, I'm going to make peace happen. Because in order to make peace, oftentimes, in order to make right relationships or to make bad relationships right, we have to do things that sometimes are very difficult. In fact, I don't want to go too far off here, but it sometimes in conflict resolution, you have to be somewhat unpeaceful. In other words, maybe it would be best to say that we don't always have this rest in our heart in order to be able to make peace. You know, sometimes we might, let me just be as clear as I can be. Sometimes we might say, well, in order to make peace, because I want to be a peacemaker here, I'm just not going to deal with the kind of conflict that maybe has come off. And what ends up happening is that I just end up putting off the peace, or putting off the difficulty, or putting off the relationship until some other time. And that's not making peace. That's not resolving the conflict. So I think that Jesus is saying here, blessed are those who work at making peace, who work at making right relationships. And notice what he says here, for they shall be called sons of God. Now, this idea of being the son of God is not so much the idea of being a child of God. This is not the Pauline sense that we are all adopted as children because of what Jesus has done for us and through us, and making it possible for us to have a children-like relationship with God. This is more the Hebrew sense, I think, of being called a son of God. For example, Barnabas was known as the son of consolation or the son of empathy, meaning that he had that adjective, he had that characteristic. So someone who is a son of God is someone who is like God. And Jesus here very clearly, I think, is giving us the direction that God's point, if we are to be God-like, we are someone who will go out of our way in order to make peace with another man or make peace with ourselves, or to make peace with God. In fact, I see 3 different ways that we go about making peace. First of all, I think there's this inner turmoil that every man and every woman has within themselves. There are just things about ourselves that we don't like. Just to be at peace with myself takes a lot of work. In fact, I think there are times where I have to go to war with me in order to like me. I don't know if that makes any sense to anybody else or not, but there are just things about Mark that I just don't particularly like. And yet, to deal with it and to work on that relationship with me is something that takes work. Then there are other men and other women. There are people that are in our life. And the question is, what am I doing to make peace, to make a right relationship with other men and women? If I am to be like God, and God has gone out of his way to make peace with men, well, then I certainly have no excuse. Jesus later on in this sermon talks about, you love the people who are in your family. Well, even sinners do that. What is the struggle is to love our enemies. And Jesus, I think, is giving us a lead into that here very early by saying, blessed are, happy are, fortunate are those who make peace with other men, with people who you would not normally want to have that relationship with, or for some reason or another, the relationship is broken. Blessed are you, happy are you when you go out of your way to make peace, to do the thing that wish the best for someone else. Not just the absence of conflict, but that you actually bless someone else. So we have this right relationship, this idea of being a peacemaker within ourselves. We have this idea of being a peacemaker with other men. And then ultimately, I think we have this idea of being a peacemaker with God. What is it that is in my life that I need to work on so that my relationship with God might be better? Again, this isn't a positional issue. This isn't a theological question. My right position with God is secured by what Christ has done for me. There's nothing further that I can do along those lines. However, there's all kinds of things that I can do to make sure that I'm in a position to enjoy the relationship that God has made possible for me. Do I simply ignore it and go about the things of my day, or do I deliberately discipline myself in order to be able to take out chunks of time to be in God's Word and to be praying and to have that right relationship with Him? Blessed is the man who is a peacemaker, for they shall be called sons of God. And this leaves us with the very last thought of this morning. Who is it that's going to be doing the calling? Jesus doesn't specify that here. Maybe it's other men, people who look upon us and say, you are a peacemaker. And I think there is a certain joy, a certain happiness that comes from that. But I think, and again, this is just Mark's speculation, that there's a little bit more to it here, because how would I have the greatest joy? From whom would that saying mean the most to me? Well, I think it would be God Himself. If God says to me, or God says to you, blessed are you, for you are a peacemaker, and I name you a son of me, for you are like me, well, there would be nothing, I think, that could make us happier than that. Thanks for joining me on this Tuesday morning, and I look forward to talking with you again tomorrow.